All right, you YouTube nerds. Today I kind of want to go over a few things on the Schecter SLS Elite with the hardtail bridge. Okay, and this is a hip shot hardtail bridge. Okay, and the reason I'm putting kind of a little more emphasis on the hardtail bridge itself is honestly a couple reasons. Okay, so first off, when I was primarily, touring and playing with bands back in New England, us guitarists always had a saying, and it's kind of a funny saying, and some people will think it's true, other people will think it's kind of a stretch, right? So with hardtail bridges in particular, we always used to say that there was a reason why they were usually anywhere between $50 and $100 cheaper than any other version of said guitar, right? Meaning that hardtail bridge guitars compared to the same guitars that might have a tunematic bridge or a Floyd Rose or an Evertune, the reason why they cost less is because hardtail bridges are peasant bridges, okay? They're made for people that can't afford that extra step up. So the guitar companies that were making these guitars, whether it be a high-end guitar or mid-tier level guitar, they said, we'll slap a hardtail and take $50 off, right? And I personally am not a huge fan of hardtail bridges. They are, if everything isn't set up perfectly, or let me rephrase that, isn't constructed perfectly, then hardtail bridges make things even worse. Okay, let me give you an example. If let's say the nut is not cut precisely to spec, and you have a hardtail bridge, right? That's going to make things way more complicated to find the right intonation when you're tuned. I mean, you could have maybe like the open strings perfectly in tune, the 12th fret notes, or even the 12th fret harmonics could be right on point, and you would still have intonation issues, okay? Anyway, so you'll see why I was talking about that later on in the video, okay? So for now, I'm gonna go through some of the tones. I'm not gonna really go through too much of a detailed spec on this guitar because, let's be honest, details are everywhere. The specifications are everywhere. You look on Guitar Center's website, you look at Schecter's website, they're all gonna have the specs. So there's no reason for me to go through everything. Other than the fact that this color looks great. I mean, let's be honest, this color is something spectacular, and that's one thing that Schecter has always done really well is their finishes, okay? So you can never really complain about that, but this is called the Bloodburst. That's the name of the color. Fishman Fluence Moderns, ceramic bridge, Alnico neck. Funny thing about this particular setup though is that you actually have a separate push-pull for each pickup, meaning that the tone push-pull is for the bridge and the push-pull on the volume is for the neck. Okay, pretty interesting. The fact that you can choose to stay in voice 1 on one pickup but voice 2 on the other, or vice versa. So kind of cool, kind of annoying at the same time. But anyway, the main thing here is I want to go through some sound samples, do a quick clean, maybe some high gain. I might even throw in a little bit of wah, just based on the last video I threw out there. And we're going to talk about the overall sound. We're going to talk about the overall quality. We're going to talk about the overall 1 out of 10, do I recommend it or not? Okay, so let's get straight to it. I'm going to go for some clean. I'm not even going to use any effects at all. I want to double check my tuning. Okay, that's good. Okay, so just so you guys are aware, I don't know if you can see the tuner from that angle. H string is perfectly in tune open and perfectly in tune intonated right at the 12th fret. Okay, so no effects, clean channel, tuner off. Green Dax, drop C, and of course the infamous Joyo Zombie 2. Okay? Voice 2. So I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but when I'm in the modern voicing is what they call it, there's actually a tiny bit of, I would almost want to call it breakup, but it's borderline static, because it just these pickups just really push that signal. So if you are doing clean, you definitely want to do either voice 2, or if you have the capability, single coil or split coil function. So just something to be aware of, and that's for any guitar that has the Fishman Fluence moderns in there. All right, so voice 2. Okay, so overall voice 2 is a little warmer, slightly less output. That's, just talking about the pickups. Big thing here is the fact that I want to get something kind of out of the way is the neck. Okay, really comfortable neck. It's got a 12 to 16 compound radius, which for those of you who don't know, all that basically means is that the radius at the first fret all the way to about right before you get to the 12th. So between like the first and the 11th fret, it's basically a 12-inch radius. And then once you hit that 12th fret and go further up, higher, it basically compounds into a 16-inch radius. So basically, in layman's terms, starts out a little more rounder here in the back of the neck, flattens out down here, all the way up here. So that's what it means by compound radius, is that it changes the higher you go up the neck. Okay. High gain. Let's just go straight to high gain. I'm gonna boost it, whatever you want to call it. Something to be aware of is that these strings are only about maybe 2 days old, give or take. So if I do go slightly out of tune, that's the primary reason here. Okay, let's throw in a little leads, just screwing around here. quick playing through. Big thing here is that I wanted to kind of get you guys familiar with how it's sounding right now, being in tune and everything. Let me go through, just for the shits and giggles, let me throw in some wah. Okay. Voice 2. Voice 1. Voice 2. Okay, so just overall kind of give you an idea on the overall sound here. So again, the whole point of this video is to not really dazzle you by playing today. The big thing here is I wanted to point something out. Now, you remember in the first part of the video, I was talking about hardtail bridges, right? And how there's a reason why they cost less. Or there's a reason why they put on certain types of, nuts at the very bottom of the fretboard near the headstock, okay? So let's go over a couple things that I am more or less kind of concerned about with this guitar. Double check my tuning. Okay. Tuned and drop C. Okay. Keep that in mind. Open strings are in perfect tune. 12th fret notes, perfect tune. Okay. After spending, keep in mind, probably about 3 hours total setting this thing up. One of the biggest selling points for me on this one this particular model is the fact that it has the spoke wheel adjustment for the truss rod. I think that is awesome. I think that more guitar manufacturers, more guitar brands should be doing this, because that was one of the biggest things that really stood out to me while I was setting this up. Is, wow, look how easy that was. So really cool, really like that. I thought it was great, a great idea. Now, for the things that I want to point out that I am not a huge fan of. First off, intonation. Intonation on this guitar is a goddamn nightmare. And what I mean by that is I am not 100% positive. I'm not quite ready to blame the hardtail bridge completely. It's this Ernie Ball compensated nut. Now, it might be, I'll see if I can show you guys this. Hopefully it comes through on the camera. If I get the right angle, it might be hard to tell, but that low string does not sit in as far as every other string, okay? And right now I've got 11s on this, 1152, okay? A 52 gauge string should not have a problem fitting in that nut at all. I could understand if it was like a 56 or 57, 58, whatever. But that's not the case, okay? So what does this mean? Well, it means that pretty much a $1,400 guitar, you already, if you're trying to use any gauge strings that are, let's say, larger than probably 48 is probably where I'd cut it off. You're going to have to do some filing. You're going to have to modify that nut, okay? Just as a reference point, I have never had to modify a guitar's nut before, ever. I've never had to do it. The fact that a $1,400 guitar came to me this way and basically said, you know what, you have to use standard tuning or drop D or don't play it. Like, that's literally how it is right now. And I think that's kind of bullshit. And it is completely throwing off the intonation no matter what I do at the bridge. And to me, that's not okay. Okay? Sorry, I got the piece of dust there. So, especially after a 3-hour setup, I thought that was kind of bullshit. I should not have to modify. And keep in mind, when I say modify, it's not a temporary modification. You start filing something, that's it. That's a permanent modification. It's either that or you replace the nut, or if you go too far with the modification, you can't add material. It's like sanding a piece of wood and then you realize, oh, I sanded it too much. You can't put wood back on a sanded piece of wood. So kind of the same concept here, except it's just with the nut, it's plastic. Okay, now here's where I point out that intonation issue. All right, I've already verified that I'm in perfect tune for drop C. Okay, we're gonna start the 12th. There we go. I hit a wrong note. So I'm hoping it comes through camera better than I'm expecting it to. But basically, anything that I'm doing with the low C here it has a rollover effect of being slightly off intonation. Okay, and the thing is, adjusting the bridge doesn't really make a big difference because the problem is here closer to the headstock as opposed to closer to the bridge. And I mean, you guys can probably see I still have all my tools out here. I picked up this guitar three or 4 days ago, and I spent 3 hours setting it up. And then since then, I've spent probably an extra 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, trying to readjust the bridge, put new strings on it, truss rod adjustment. Everything is set up technically perfect. Everything. And I've been working on guitars for almost 20 years, probably closer to 15. But so that is a huge complaint to me, for me specifically, the fact that the nut needs to be filed, because it's very tedious. It's not like making a bridge adjustment where you're like, oh, I adjusted it too far down, let me bring it back up. You can't do that when you're filing material off of a guitar. Is it the worst thing in the world? No, because there could be theoretically way more problems with this guitar as opposed to just that. But that's not the point. The point is, if you're going to spend $1,400 on a guitar, as nice as it might look, as nice as it might feel when you're playing, it doesn't matter if you have to make a $5 adjustment or a $50 adjustment. It doesn't matter. You spent the money, you shouldn't be any problems after initial setup. But yet, here we are. Now, the other thing I don't like, this is a double-edged sword, because I like this about the guitar, but I don't like it because it causes problems. And it's the thin neck. Well, wait a minute. Thin necks are great. What's the problem? The problem is it's not, even though it has the carbon fiber reinforcement rods, carbon fiber, just so you guys know, is not as strong as people make it out to be. Okay? Let me explain. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to strum open, and I'm just going to pick up the guitar. That is the first time in almost 20 years I've ever had that happen to me on a guitar. I have never strummed anything picked up the guitar close to the headstock and by the body and have the tuning change as notes ring out. I've never had that. I have, I mean, I've owned probably close to 100 guitars, maybe just a little less over the course of 20 years. Never in my life have I felt a neck or had a neck on a guitar that could be easily pitch changed. If you think about it, if you're standing with the guitar and you want to do some kind of cool sound effects without having to Floyd Rose, maybe that could be okay. But the real question is, will it go out of tune? Let's find out. And again, new strings, of course, they're going to be a little off here and there. Okay, so I'm just going to play. I'm gonna mess around with the neck just a little bit, see what happens. Okay, so again, that's more of an experiment than anything else. No, that's fine. F is on. Okay, so really, it didn't really affect the tone, or excuse me, the tuning that much. But it is something to be aware of if you're a little more aggressive on your neck, swinging. You have a habit of like swinging the guitar, or constantly like picking it up during a show or whatever. Something to be aware of, that it will pull your pitch out of tune. Yeah, it does. It seems to go back to tune just fine, almost like if you were playing with a Floyd Rose, but something to be notable. It's notable. So overall, the big thing here is that I can't recommend this guitar as a whole, specifically because it has this nut and this hardtail bridge. These two are a terrible combination, especially for a high-end guitar that's labeled an elite model. It's definitely not elite. There is nothing elite about a hardtail bridge with an Ernie Ball compensated nut that doesn't compensate. All right, especially when you have to make modifications. It might not be the worst thing in the world to have to file a nut, but unless you're experienced and you have all the right sized and the right dimensions for a file that you would use on this, you're taking a huge risk. Anytime you have to remove material, it is a huge risk, whether it's plastic, wood, whatever. I would be way more comfortable swapping out a bridge, swapping out tuning pegs, whatever the case might be, over taking material off something any day of the week. The other thing that I want to kind of point out is locking tuners. Okay, Schecter locking tuners are perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with these tuners. There have been a couple of videos where guys were complaining about the Schecter locking tuners specifically, because they're saying that the tuning pegs were not holding, they would not hold tuning correctly, they were having problems. It wasn't until I zoomed in on the video of all three of these people that were complaining. Okay, guys, just so you know, this is going to be a free tip. If you have locking tuners, guess what? You still have to leave slack on the string and get a good, at least one solid wrap around the tuning peg. You have to. Because what happens is that if you're pulling the string tight, you're slitting it through right here on the tuning peg, locking it and doing what? A half turn, almost maybe one full turn, and then you have the string in tune. The problem with that is you have unbalanced and uneven tension on that tuning peg. Okay? Meaning, what? It's not going to hold tune. So guys, if you are worried about locking tuners, specifically the Schecter ones, or even if you have, let's say, an Ibanez with locking tuners, guess what? You have to still wrap the string. Okay, it is not an option. With the string wrapped at least one solid wrap around, you now have more balanced tension on that specific tuning peg on each one. Okay, if you don't, well, guess what? You're going to have problems with tuning. That's just the way it works. So you guys that are taking your strings, shoving it all the way through as tight as it can go, and then tightening the tuning peg and clipping the string, and before you know it, you already have this much tension on the string before you even started turning the tuning peg. There goes your balanced tension. That just went out the window. So guys, if you have locking tuners, try at least wrapping around the tuning peg at least one full wrap. Okay, give it at least one full wrap. If you can do 1.5, that's better. But I promise you, you will have better tuning stability. Now, that doesn't speak to anything else on the guitar. You know, if you have a fucked up nut or your bridge is all jacked up, then of course what you do up here isn't going to matter. But assuming that everything else is aligned properly, the neck's good, you have good neck relief, your nut isn't all fucked up, your bridge isn't completely all out of whack, then yes, next step, make sure you've got a couple, 1 to 1.5 reps on your tuning peg. Anyway, that was it was off subject, but the fact that these have locking tuners, I kind of wanted to bring that up. Okay, pro tip. All right. So anyway, in regards to the SLS Elite, specifically with the hardtail bridge, I got to be honest here, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it, especially for the price of $1,400. Actually, it's over $1,400. If I remember right, I think it's $1,450. So this actually costs more than a LTD MH or M1000 series with a 1,000 Floyd Rose, same pickups. If Schecter ends up ever seeing this video, which I'm sure they won't, guys, get rid of that damn Ernie Ball compensated nut. There's nothing compensating on this. It is horseshit. It is garbage. Get rid of it. Go back to using the same nut you have on the Hellraiser. Because I'm telling you right now, guys, if you're looking for a higher end guitar that still has a really nice, relatively thin or ultra thin C neck, that isn't a standard Hellraiser, the Hellraiser Hybrid would be the next one to get. Okay. Does have different pickups. I think the Hellraiser Hybrid uses the EMJ 57 and 66 combo, which are still decent pickups. You know, they're still active. They sound real nice. If you're playing with a shit ton of gain, you might have some noise issues with those specific EMGs. But if you're not like a total gain nerd, then you can pretty much ignore what I just said. So yeah, overall, do I recommend the Schecter SLS Elite with the hardtail and the Ernie Ball compensated nut? No, I think it is way overpriced for what it is. I think it has some issues to work out. There are a lot of great pros about this guitar, being the finish, the spoke wheel truss rod, the Fishman pickups, and the locking tuning pegs, locking tuners, whatever. And the thin neck. I think it has really great promise as long as a lot of those issues that I have talked about are addressed. So again, not so much, didn't want to do a lot of playing here, but I wanted to do more talking points than anything else. Now, in case you guys are wondering, technically I picked this up. Oh, that's weird. I picked this up used for $900, okay? And because it was more out of curiosity than anything else. And I can tell you, for paying $900, I am still disappointed. So, and there's no real build quality issues on the guitar. You know, the neck's perfectly fine, it's straight. The finish is great. There's no flaws. And even for 900, I'm still kind of disappointed, mainly because of this. I could deal with a hardtail bridge. That nut is just a nightmare. But anyway, what I started to say is there's a sticker on the back. Set up to play. All right. Still got some of the clear sticker. So they list the tuning, and it says 1260 June, and it says A sharp, F, A sharp, D sharp, G, C. Okay, wait a minute. If these are 12s to 60, and it was set up by the factory like that, hold on, I'm going to show you guys this. This is fucking weird. This is fucking with me. What? I'll try to, hopefully that gets on camera here. All right, so you can see where it says the tuning, and then below it says 1260. I'm assuming that's the string gauge. So this thing came with 12s to 60 on here. I've got 11 to 52, and my low string doesn't even fit in the nut. So what the hell's going on here? I don't get it. Anyway, guys, look, I'm really curious on your thoughts. Between what I've shown you, what I've talked about, let me know your thoughts on this. I don't believe that this is really that great of a guitar. I think for anything that's called Elite, should be better than this. I think it should have. I think the nut needs to be improved. The hardtail bridge, I'm undecided about, only because I'm not sure if that's fully contributing to the intonation issue with the nut, or if it's only the nut. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Again, you know, I've been setting guitars up and repairing guitars for almost 20 years. I'd like to think I know what I'm doing. This is the first guitar I've ever had any real intonation issues with that I haven't been able to solve, at least within a few days. So anyway, sorry to rant. Let me know what you guys think. Oh, and hey, don't forget, you won't be seeing this on any shows that we're doing. So if you look for Fuel Heavy, the band in Las Vegas, you probably won't see this, but you are going to see the Hellraiser, and you'll see one of my LTD guitars. So anyway, if you guys haven't already checked it out, please go look at Fuel Heavy band. Let me know what you guys think. I have a few videos uploaded. Comment, like, even subscribe, not even to this channel, but to Fuel Heavy. Let us know what you think.